I believe my stance is that that artificial intelligence will never get to the point of actually passing the Turing test and achieving personhood.
Personhood. Yeah, that's a very interesting word. Do you mind expounding on that? What does it mean to achieve personhood?
Okay, so personhood, and there is, I mean, if you Google personhood theory, stuff comes up. And I learned about personhood theory by reading Nancy Pearcey's book entitled Love Thy Body. And what she talks about, one thing she talks about to introduce personhood theory, which I was trying to figure out, how do I get Nancy Pearcey's ideas across? And so I decided to take Pearcey's ideas and put them into this airplane. It has a B and a P. The B stands for the body, in particular the human body, and the P stands for a person. And before we go further with the airplane here, this came into mainstream culture back in 2004 when John Kerry was running for president of the United States against the incumbent George W. Bush. And John Kerry was saying that he is pro-choice on the abortion issue. He's pro-choice, but he also believes that at conception, you have human life, that life is human from conception. And the reporters who heard John Kerry say this, one of them said, well, wait a second, how can you say you're pro-choice but believe that life is human from conception? And he explained. He used personhood theory without actually using the phrase personhood theory. He said, well, that human life, that fertilized egg, is not yet a person in the way that we would think about it. So in the Christian worldview, in like the book of Psalms, when David is writing about being knit together in his mother's womb, he says to God, you have knit me together in my mother's womb. He doesn't say you knit my body together. David makes no distinction between the body and the person. The body is the person. Person is the body. And so just to demonstrate visually, it doesn't prove anything, but I'm just going to...
Oh,
to me, that looked like a beautiful flight.
Yeah.
When body and person are integrated, you have you see no distinction between them. However, what John Kerry was doing was he was saying, I actually separate person from body. And this is what happens in personhood theory. Person is philosophically separated from the body, which that doesn't fly as well.
No, it doesn't.
And I would argue, do you mind handing me that body thing, the body portion, just to illustrate this further? Personhood theory says you have a human body, but a human body is not a person yet. In order for a human body to be a person, personhood theory says that there are certain things you can do to turn a body into a person. Which, by the way, is a very significant distinction because if you kill a human body in an act of abortion, but that body is not a person, it's just human, but it's not a person, then that's not murder. Murder is killing of a person, not like killing an ant or killing a flower. I have nothing against ants, I have nothing against flowers, but...
There's a difference to that.
You just don't get convicted of murder. You do that. But if you kill a person, a human person, that's murder. So there is motivation to separate personhood off. So personhood theory is a body of beliefs, and there's a lot of them, about what it takes for a human body to become a person. Some will say when a baby is born, it becomes a person, which is an arbitrary point to say, okay, let's say I had some tape, and we taped on the person part of the airplane. Or maybe when the baby becomes self-conscious, or when it's loved. If it's not loved, it's not really a person. Or maybe when it passes Algebra 2 or something.
That would be detrimental.
It would be Detrimental to the person to have to pass Algebra 2?
Well, it'd be detrimental to most people.
Oh, yeah, right. Because,
Yeah.
oh, no,
I failed. Not a person
exactly,
anymore.
Gotcha. Or
Yeah.
not a person yet. So, but this also has implications for later on in life, because if personhood is something that you can just attach to a human body, then you can just as easily detach it. Like, let's say later in life, if someone is no longer performing the functions that are accepted as or viewed to be required to be a person, it's like, oh, you're not a person anymore, so then euthanasia becomes an issue. So this culture is swimming in the implications of having accepted personhood theory. I don't accept personhood theory. I see that I agree with John Kerry that life is human from birth, but it's also a person from, and not just birth, but from conception. At conception, you're talking about a person.
Yes.
But if you separate that off, then that will be the basis. Accepting personhood theory is the basis not only for accepting abortion, but also infanticide. You can use it too, as people get older, to justify participation in the hookup cultures. People say, well, let's have a relationship where our bodies relate to each other, but there's no personal commitment long term. Pornography is an industry that relies on people separating the person off from the body and saying, oh, okay, I'm just going to, the viewer relates to the body of a person, but not the person, then and they see no problem with that. It's like, but then also you see later on in life, as I mentioned, with euthanasia, that becomes an issue also. So